Hello students, today I am going to start with the new chapter, that is the second phase of the Indian national movement. In last video we have discussed about the first phase of the Indian national movement, which was dominated by the early nationalists. And here in the second phase of the Indian national movement, we are going to discuss about the assertive leaders. The leaders, those who have evolved from the year 1907 to 1916. In the second phase of the national movement, there emerged a new and a younger group of leaders within the Congress. As we know, the Congress was divided into two parts, early nationalists as well as the assertives. So the new group which emerged as the assertive, they did not agree with the methods and ideology of the early nationalists. They had their own belief, their own objectives, and their own method of achieving the freedom or to lead the national movement in the country. So this was led by the assertive nationalists, which is known as the second phase of the Indian national movement. Now we will discuss in this video the causes which has led to the rise of assertive nationalism in our country. So the first point which we'll be discussing over here, that is the recognition of the true nature of the British rule. So in the later years, the true character of the British rule in India was exposed to people. All of the people, they came to know about the actual and the true nature of the British rule. As we have seen in the early nationalists, they believed they had the belief that in the justice and the fair play of the Britishers. But later on, the true nature was exposed to the Indian people, and they felt that the British rule is only the reason which has brought ruin to our country, especially the economic ruin belongs to the by the Britishers only in our country. Now, second is the failure of the early nationalists. That is, the younger elements within the Congress were dissatisfied with the achievements of the early nationalists, because we have seen that they demanded lots and lots of things from the Britishers, but they could not achieve their goals. Whatever the standards, the demands were set up, they could not achieve their goals. So therefore, the younger group the upcoming group was not satisfied by the methods and ideologies or the achievements which was led by the early nationalists. So they strongly criticized the method of peaceful constitutional agitation. The assertive leaders advocated for the adoption of European revolutionary methods. For them, they wanted to have a revolutionary method to bring the change in the country, to fight for the nation's freedom. So that was the change in the ideology. Early nationalists wanted constitutional means to get the freedom back, whereas the assertive nationalists wanted the revolutionary change or the methods to be changed to demand the Britishers the freedom from the Britishers. Third point, worsening economic condition. India witnessed famines which reached India from 1896 to 1900. There were various famines which has taken place from between 1896 to 1900, and almost 90 lakhs lives were taken away because of that famine. But in such a case, government did not do anything to help the people, to help the poor, and the economic condition was getting worse day by day. And the repressive and unjust policies of the British prompted a lot for the assertive nationalists to raise the voices against the Britishers. Then, growing consciousness among the Indians. Assertive nationalists made all the efforts to develop self respect and self confidence among the people. They wanted the people to be aware about the self confidence, and they wanted to develop self respect among the people, so that they could fight for their own rights and their own beliefs from the Britishers. the need for mass action. The assertive leaders taught the people that the remedy to the sad condition or this adverse condition is due to their own hands, and they believe that if self effort will be leading by the people, or if they will uh, do their initiative by themselves, then it will definitely bring the change in the country. And this change can only be brought in the country by the masses, involvement of the masses. Then influence of international events. There were various international events which were taking place in our country at that time. For the first time, Japan as a nation country was defeated by Russians. Italian forces were also defeated by the Abbasians in Ethiopia. These were the examples. In South Africa, the Boers fought for the 3 years against the British Empire. And in Ireland, people were waging a full scale home rule agitation against the Britishers. So, all these were the examples which were working as a motivation and inspiration for the Indians to fight for their own rights and their own beliefs. And there was a myth actually in Europe that Europeans are the invincible, they cannot be won over it. We cannot come over the Britishers. They are invincible, they cannot be defeated. But such incidents in the world history shows us that yes, the Britishers or the Europeans can also be defeated or can also be challenged. Now the next point comes over here, that is the growth of education and unemployment. Large number of educated Indians were employed in the administration on low salaries. They were paid very low salaries, and some of the people were facing, or rather I could say most of the people were facing unemployment. So these educated, low paid or unemployed Indians became the followers of the assertive nationalism. The next point comes ill treatment of Indians abroad. Indians has helped Indians have helped the Britishers to develop the colonies in other parts of the world. But everywhere, especially in South Africa, Indians were subjected to racial discrimination. The discrimination treated meted out to the Indians were resented by the Indians. People was really dissatisfied by the attitude which was adopted by the Britishers or by the Europeans against the Indians. So this also gave an impetus or encouragement to the assertive nationalism to fight for their own rights and their demands. Then existence of a nationalist school of thought. A school of nationalism had existed in the country from almost the beginning of the national movement. As soon as the national movement have started, this new way of thinking, new way of thought was there. These nationalists declared Swaraj as the goal of national movement. Till now, we were only wanted self-governance under the British rule, but the assertive nationalists declared that we want our Swaraj for our country, not the self-government. They considered no personal sacrifice is too great for the good of their country. So, according to them, personal sacrifice is something beneficial, it is something good for the country. So, most of them were ready to sacrifice their lives even for the welfare of the country. Then, repressive policies of Lord Curzon. We can see Lord Curzon has followed lots and lots of repressive policies for the Indians. He refused to recognize India as a nation even. He took several repressive measures, like the measures included the Act of 1898, which made an offense to provoke people against the British. If anyone was speaking anything against of the British, it was considered as an offense under the Act of 1898. Then the Calcutta Corporation Act, it reduced the strength of elected members from India, thereby giving the British a majority. In Calcutta Corporation Act, it reduced the strength of elected members from sorry and the Official Secret Act. According to this, the law which was applicable to the government servants and the citizens provided the framework for dealing with espionage is spy system, sedition, and the other potential threats to the integrity of the nation. If anyone is going to leak the secrets of the government or is going to do any work as a spy, so in certain conditions, the person will be punished strictly. So, such an act was initiated by Lord Curzon. Then next act which he promoted, that was the Indian University Act of 1904. According to this, a strict official control was told to be administered over the Indian University, as Curzon himself believed that these universities were the centers of nationalism. Why center of nationalism? Because in universities usually the young people used to study, and the young people were only participating more and more in the freedom struggle, fight for the nation. These were led by the assertive nationalists. So, therefore, all these things have led to the assertive thought of the people to fight for the nation. Then we have got the partition of Bengal. This point we will be studying in detail in the later part of the chapter, children, where the Bengal was divided into two halves, why it was divided, how it was divided. That we will study in the later in the um, later part of the chapter. So this was the causes for the rise which has led to the assertive nationalism in our country. In next video, children, we'll be discussing about the objectives, methods, and the difference between early nationalists and the assertive nationalists. Thank you.